turn it over to Jim.
Thank you, Corey. So yes, I'm Jim Marty. I've been a CPA in Colorado with my own practice that I started in 1984. And things were going along quite nicely. This was a small town CPA firm doing tax returns and books for small businesses and doctors and dentists and all walks of life. And then in 2009, things changed drastically. I came back from my summer vacation and my friends were saying, "You wouldn't believe all that's happened since you were gone. There's been dispensaries opening up all over the place and they really need an accountant." So in 2009, late 2009, I did due diligence. And after some due diligence, which included a trip to Oakland, California, where I got to meet a good friend of mine I didn't know at the time, and he told me two really important things. He said, "Jim, the IRS wants you to help these folks. And two, in 15 years of legal cannabis in California, a CPA has never been prosecuted or sanctioned for working in this industry." So I came back from that trip and I called the marijuana attorneys in Denver that, okay, I'll do it. I'll sign these guys' tax returns. And my phone really started ringing, and by 2014, my cannabis business was bigger than my 30-year-old practice. And so I actually had to stop taking on new clients for a while last year. And then on January 1st of this year, we were acquired, Bridge West was, by a large CPA firm, my partner Corey Parnell from St. Paul, Minnesota. They go by BGM, they're about 100 people. And I also merged out all of my non-cannabis work to a very good CPA firm in my hometown of Longmont, Colorado. So that's how I kind of get into this and what I'm doing. So now we'll jump into the what's new, okay? An update. A lot going on. As you guys have been here today, the last 2 days, there's tremendous things going on all over the place. So Colorado did $1 billion in 2015, $1.3 billion in 2016. It's probably more like $1.5 billion. There's a few risk factors that they tend to under-report that a little bit. And luckily, we have banking. That's one of the first cocktail party things people say to me. And I always wear my silver marijuana pin, so it's always quite a conversation starter at various functions I attend. And they'll say, "Oh, how do you deal with all that cash?" And they're very surprised when I tell them, actually, we have banking. And so here's, as I go through this next half hour, 40 minutes, we'll talk about some takeaways. And here's a takeaway, is be upfront with your bank. Now, you probably don't want to have cannabis in your name. Every cannabis seems to have two names, every cannabis business. You know, the ABC Corporation doing business as Marijuana Is Us. So the ABC Corporation has a lot better chance of getting a checking account than Cannabis or Us. So try to keep cannabis out of your legal corporate name. It'll help you get a checking account. But be upfront and say to your banker, what is your cannabis policy? They may surprise you and accept your business. We have about 6 banks banking the industry in Colorado, and so most of my clients now have checking. That wasn't true a few years ago when it was cash basis, really cash based. Even the IRS in Denver takes cash. You can pay your payroll taxes in cash. You can pay your estimated tax payments in cash. They have a separate room at the IRS in Denver where you can bring in your cash and the accountant, you can leave with the receipt. We also have a Federal Reserve Bank, which has proven to be very handy. The largest credit union is banking about half the industry. Their policy is, do not come into our bank with, $40,000, $50,000 in cash. Instead, the way they set it up is an armored car picks up the cash at the dispensaries twice a week and takes it straight to the Federal Reserve Bank in Denver, and the Federal Reserve credits the accounts back. There's an acronym, and I'm not sure all the terms, but it's the Federal Crimes Enforcement Network, also known as FinCEN. And FinCEN actually has rules and regulations on how banks can bank the cannabis industry. The point is they choose not to. Most banks don't want to do it. It's too much of a hassle. There's tremendous internal compliance they have to do. So banking, for most banks, it's just not worth it. This particular credit union And by the way, their name is Partners Colorado Credit Union, and their subsidiary is Safe Harbor Private Banking. And their deposits last year in Colorado were over $700 million. So thank goodness all that cash is off the street. My clients tell me you can't imagine how inconvenient and unsafe it is to deal in cash. We'll talk about more details on 280E. It's really the dominant issue. That's what really needs to be fixed. We've had such great speakers today. Roger Stone talked about politics. Reverend Sharpton talked about the social consequences, diversity issues. As far as the financial accounting goes and making money in this industry, 280E is the dominant issue. And the short version is that your cost of goods sold, so all cost of growing, all cost of your purchasing of pounds of marijuana, all that's deductible. If you pay $1,000 a pound and you have 10 pounds, $10,000, that's deductible. What's not deductible is your retail rent, your retail labor, and your advertising. Don't ask me why. It dates back to some arcane drug laws from the 1980s. Started out with a case called Edmondson versus the Commissioner. Mr. Edmondson was a drug dealer. He went to tax court to get his deductions that the IRS is disallowing. Mr. Edmondson won his case. And Congress, in a knee-jerk reaction, passed IRS Code Section 280E, never anticipating that it would be used here in the 2017 to prevent legal licensed marijuana dealers from taking the ordinary and necessary business deductions that every other business has. And we'll also talk about the Trump administration and what's going on there. I thought Roger Stone did such a great job outlining that today. And really the big takeaway there is, I think it's time. We cannot continue on with a multi-billion-dollar industry where it's legal at the state level and not legal at the federal level. That issue needs to be resolved, and Congress is the right place to fix it. Or, I believe the executive, Mr. Trump, President Trump, has the authority to reschedule marijuana and could do it tomorrow. So that really, it's coming to a head. It really needs to be fixed. You can't expect people to raise $50 million, we have clients who raise $50 million for something that's getting by with a wink and a nod. I'm going to skip through a lot of my slides. I really just use them to make sure I make a few points, but this is what the map looked like after the election. So you can see we're really getting there with the 29 states, 8 with full legal. We have bills winding their way through Congress. One would fix banking, one would fix 280E. So where are we at with President Trump and Sessions? So as we all know, during the campaign, he said that he was okay with medical and would leave the decisions up to the states. I'm fully in agreement with Roger Stone that he needs to stick to his campaign promises. We need to remind him to stick to his campaign promises. Jeff Sessions, an old drug warrior. I don't think he'll be changing his opinion anytime soon, so it'll be very important to see who sets the agenda. Don't forget that Trump won Florida on his way to the presidency the same night that medical marijuana passed. Some polls have 60 to 80%, 80% for medical, 60% for legalization. And we have to admit that until the last couple